Hello viewers, so today we are racing some record laps at Nürburgring on the legendary Group C, and that is a Nissan R91 with a legendary VRH45 engine that, surprisingly, if you didn't know, we can find today in most modern V8 McLarens. And on that note, let's move on to the actual car. There you go, that's the one. This one is a 3.5 liter MR, which is medium location of the engine, 987 horsepower, Group C monster that sounds somewhat like Sauber C9. So for some of you who didn't know, it's one of the most epic sounding Group C cars, and yeah, this one comes at almost 1000 horsepower at 800 RPM, 700 foot-pounds of torque. That's interesting. And we're having at 1,984 pounds. I'm not sure how much that is in kilos, but perhaps we're probably running somewhere almost a kilogram per horsepower. Now we're doing a we're going to do a couple of races on Nürburgring. These are not online races. These are just fun races. And let's first set up a quick race. Nordschleife Twilight. Let's do a Twilight with some cloudy professional level. I'm not sure if I can call myself a professional at driving. Probably more of an amateur. Let's cover some settings. Everything is soft, so should be good. Let's go. So we're gonna work ourselves up to the first place with all the Group C cars. Some Vision Gran Turismo cars. I've been doing some laps on the some kind of a mythical Formula One car from the 80s that for Gran Turismo is called in Formula A 1500. That's a 1500 Formula One car that has a, as much as I remember, a liter and a half V12 that is turbocharged, and that's the car that I've been driving probably most of the time. Also in the sort of offline racing mode, and that car has the sharpest front end. Here we have the first casualty, which is an Alpine VGT. This is also a mythical non-existent car that's been designed by Gran Turismo in collaboration with Alpine. Not a bad looking car, to be honest. I wish they can all be street legalized so that we can enjoy them on the road, but nonetheless, I've been driving a Formula One, sort of a mythical A1500 car that is pushing 4.2 kilograms of boost. 4.2 kilograms of boost. That's, in translation onto the tuning and automotive world, that's 4.2 bars of boost. That thing is pushing out, I think, around 1000 horsepower. That's a Formula One car with an architecture of 1980s Formula One car, which I'll be covering in my probably next race. We'll do a couple of races of this style, and then we'll do a couple of races on the Formula One car. Let's concentrate on some lap times. Just so you know, this is a warm-up lap. And we're only pushing a kilogram or a bar of boost, which is not a lot at all. Audi can go to the rear view mirror. There has been a famous incident with this car where the wastegate has been stuck open in one of the Le Mans races. I think it was qualifications, and they were pushing well above 1,000 horsepower, and that's back in the 90s, which allowed the pilot to set some stunning lap times. And I'm sure it takes quite some balls of metal to drive this thing at 1,000 horsepower, which it is basically right now, but in real life. If you're wondering, I am running a PlayStation 2 DualShock controller setup for this, as I'm working my way up to save up for the sim race rig. Coming onto this main straightaway, we're on the 11th position, which means we did not gain a spot. And I'm wondering, why is this car running so poorly? We have 1,000 horsepower, and perhaps the weather conditions are not suitable for it to move. Trying to listen to the passes. Oh, we're having some rain. Alright, better. At least we got the fastest lap out of the bunch. So next up, we're gonna do a custom race of the same track on 3 laps. Let's do the starting grid at 20. Rolling start interval is also at 50, but I think that this Gran Turismo doesn't really do the 50-meter interval even if you set it up. I think Gran Turismo will not run the 50-meter interval, at least on the Nürburgring. Maybe other tracks are suited for this. Anyways, let's set up everything for as realistic as possible. We're gonna be doing some preset weather, professional level, this, that should be done, should be good. Now here I'm essentially just setting myself up to run some record laps for this chassis. And again, this is not an R91, this is an R92CP. And this version I think is coming from 1992. All right. The legendary Calsonic Impul team, which is my favorite. Let's rock and roll. Now perhaps what do we have here in terms of alright, so looks like the weather conditions are affecting engine performance, because right now we're running 1.5 kilograms. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to be always correcting myself, because 1.5 kilograms of boost is 1.5 bars of boost. Probably my European background never gonna allow me to talk in PSI language. It's more easier to talk in kilograms than bars, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, maximum 5, and that is, you can only see perhaps 5 bars of boost pressure in cars like 4-banger from a BMW that they put into a Formula 1 of their own. That was 1.5 liters. No, that's horrible. 1.5 liters 4-banger that was running 5 pounds of 5 bars of pressure, 5.5. That was probably around 1400 horsepower out of 4-banger on a Formula 1 car. That's insane. That's a 4-banger. Absolutely mindless. Yeah, these conditions are way much better. And pardon me, I might have been wrong. We have, looks like we did have a 50-meter difference in distance between the cars on the starting grid, because to be honest, this never happened to me before. We have a Toyota TS030, and might have actually, I think I had I was fortunate enough to run into one of those Toyotas in Tokyo when it was just in the middle of downtown, before this Fuji Super GT500 weekend. There we have a 919 hybrid, legendary 962 Group C, Lockman's Porsche GTR LM, Bugatti PGT. And just like that, from the 20th position, we're at P12. Next one up is 787. Spot this legend from far away. Wow. Barrier sometimes is inevitable, especially in a narrow track like Nürburgring. Nürburgring is not only legendary because it has 134 turns, but as you can see by these barriers, it's actually quite a narrow track. And I'm assuming that's probably one of the main reasons why it's dangerous, is because it's a very narrow track. Similar to Monaco or Gilles, Montreal Formula 1 track, which is sadly a track that's owned by the city. So just like Monaco, it's only busy one weekend per year. and it is not being utilized for anything else, which is absolutely horrible. City of Montreal, where I do live right now, could have been blooming well above and beyond of what it is right now if every day that track would have been utilized for its purpose, which is racing. Absolutely sad. And the government, being French, I'm assuming the leeway or the space for negotiations is minimal. Here we have some contact with the GR010 hybrid by Toyota, and I think this is the car. Distracted, catching the barriers. But this is the car that I did spot in Tokyo last time I was there, which was last year. Beautiful. Some nitrous. Top this thing out at 400 kilometers. Operate in real life, because I think Dodge and SRT are working on something of this sort behind the curtains. By the way, did you know that SRT stands for Street Racing Technology? Or at least what it used to be, from what I remember. Let's show some difference in power of our twin. I can be running all these colors, corners, let out. Primarily concentrate on running some records, record lap times. Current lap is at 6:03, and that's the lap that was used just to pass the majority of traffic. Quite a legendary machinery. Jaguar had a D12 in their Group C. I wonder how that thing ran, performed, and failed. I mean, I wonder how durable was that? Because technically it should be quite durable with a 12-cylinder running all these long races. Again, obviously my track times are not as good because I'm running a dual shock, so forget about trail braking, feeling the steering and quickness of the steering wheel, taking advantage of all the controls the way that they are supposed to be controlled. And all we got is a dual shock vibration on my hand at this point. But sooner, hopefully not later, we'll be able to get the full sim racing kit setup. Because it is quite cute. That's some horrible cornering right there. Forget about the track record times. Technically we're out of the race, but we're not. Okay. Well, at least we have some excitement of fighting for the P1 at the end of the my favorite technical zone of Nürburgring, knowing that obviously we will gap this guy on the main straightaway. Let's see if we can turn signal like this. That was really easy giving up of position. Very Hyundai-like. But not very US driver-like. Gran Turismo movie action, aka Le Mans Group C flights. And here we go with the nitrous. Perhaps gonna gain another 10 seconds, probably less. At this point we're at 5:45. Maybe I have 15 seconds until. Late on braking, late on the braking. How long we are. Longer we are in the 540s, we're in the 550s. Alright, so and as promised before, let's go and set some lap times on the F1500TA. My pardon, I probably didn't correctly pronounce this model of the Formula One. And yeah, basically this one is 988 horsepower at 11,000 RPMs with 500 foot torque. Sounds like a Honda spec, because they always did high horsepowers with low foot-pounds of torque specs. That's very alike for VTEC engines. I just have to figure out what's the exact model of this Formula One car, because apparently this is a mythical car created by Gran Turismo. Looks like a Honda to me. You know what, out of curiosity, let's do a 10-lap race without tire wear and with or without. Let's do with fuel consumption and a 15 liter per second refueling speed. I mean, obviously here we're going to be ending up finishing first. And to make it more complicated, let's just do 1x tire wear. Why not? This one is gonna be something. But since we did custom weather, let's pick it all out with no, we're not gonna do any rain whatsoever. We're just gonna do thick clouds one, and then back to dry, cloudy, humid and pleasant, sunny with monsoon, and the last lap is gonna be cloudy and pleasant. Boom. 10 race lap, let's go. So this time, as we can see, the race did not start with a 50-meter difference, 50 meters gap in between each player. The annoying Ferrari VGT is behind, Bugatti VGT is in the back really fast. Next up is McLaren VGT. I mean, obviously these are all just NPCs trained with a little bit of AI. I actually wonder what happened to that AI mode that Gran Turismo was implementing not too long ago. Whether it was called a Sora or Sony AI, it quickly disappeared, at least from the front headlines of PlayStation 5 Sony Gran Turismo. Perhaps the AI hate didn't really sink in well. Pretty quick, we went to P13. Not the cleanest passes, that's for sure. And we're back to P12. Mazda rotary LM55 VGT. I think this is the third spin out of this race. Let's try to avoid that. The first lap, although, is obviously a warm-up lap, because I took a small break and now I need to get back into clean laps. So the goal for this race is to set up some record lap times. My fastest lap on this car is 5:19, and that's within the first 3 laps on fresh, soft racing tires. And in order for me to do an all-out best lap, I should have probably put on the settings for the tires to be non-wearable outable. But in the worst case scenario, we can just take one of those pit stops. See, this is the 4th crash. I'm completely and totally out of sync. In fact, this is why I did the 10-lap race, so that I can get into the mood of setting some lap records throughout this non-stop madness. But one thing I should have toggled off is the tire wear. As you can see, the race is not really entertaining at all because we're racing with NPCs. Passing the Red Bull, another Red Bull X 2019, which is most likely a fictional car. Next up, it looks like something like a Bugatti. My apologies. Can we make it P1? Nah, almost. We almost made it a P2, but this is the fastest lap out of all. 6 minutes flat. So this being a 10-lap race, we're aiming for 60 minutes, which I didn't account in. Well, perhaps it's gonna be around 55 minutes. I would love to see a car in real life going through this section and all the turns flat out at 320. But seems like a fairy tale to me, to be honest. Alright, so we're off to some lap setting, record setting laps. approaching a carousel, I managed to pull away from the P1, from the P2 in this case, by 2.5 seconds, but with this spin out, looks like the Red Bulls are catching up to me, and these guys are quite skillful NPCs actually. And don't get me wrong, I do love online racing. It's just right now I'm not in my online racing mood. The Gran Turismo 7 online mode requires some love and hate relationship. 14 seconds faster than the previous lap though. Alright, here we are having some difficulties. Back to P4 after a bunch of gravel eating. From 14 seconds and from 14 seconds off advantage of previous lap, we're back to 7, so it's time to lock in. Not the best spot for takeovers here. Looking at my gap time, it looks like the Red Bulls are faster, quite faster on the straightaway. So here we are running the cloudy lap that I set for myself as a reminder to change my tires, because they are indeed getting quite buttery, and the P1 right now is 10-11 seconds away. Whoa. The gasoline, although, on the other side, the petrol is almost at around half tank. So what we'll do, we'll probably pit in for some tires and perhaps a lap full of petrol. That way, if Gran Turismo is sophisticated enough, will give me an advantage in lower weight on the car. And just like that, we're at 16 seconds away from P1. So in this race, I'm the first one to pit in. Let's see how many P's we're gonna lose. The pit stop line here is really short, but you have to wait like almost a minute until the car settles. There you go. And we're starting again at P4. And the first 4 cars that are in the race are all Red Bull. Maybe that's the next car for me to check out for some lap record videos on Nürburgring. Kinda looks like an identical Copari car. Those Red Bulls look kind of identical as the Copari car that I've seen in magazine journals back in 2000, probably 2, maybe even earlier. I wonder if those Red Bulls are ever gonna go to the pit lane, the pit stop. of lap 5, lap 6. We're 18 seconds behind the P1, and from what I see, the Red Bulls are not really planning on entering the pit lane, so I wonder what they run on. Even all the VGT cars are not planning to get into the pit, as we can see right here. Really strange. I didn't get a chance to see what tires they're running, but as you can see, I'm running softs. That was a good example of how quick things can finish on Formula One racing on Nürburgring. So on the last 10th lap, surprise, surprise, we got P1 from Red Bull right on front of me, went to the pit stop. And that gives it a pretty good drivability score, because 9 laps on Nürburgring without a pit stop, that's pretty good. I wonder if absolutely everyone will go to the pit stop. As we can see, P2, 3, 4, they all went to the pit stop. And now I have the final lap to run by myself. I just have to stop talking and make a clean pass on my somewhat used up tires. And as I've just noticed, the fastest lap is set by a little in one of those Red Bulls at 5:29.4. That is basically 1 second, a half a second faster than me. And the other problem is that we have Mr. Red Bull catching up to me on fresh tires. And that's freaking fast. He's right on my tail. All right, here we go. We officially lost P1. And the guy is moving at skyrocket fast. I'm not gonna be surprised if he's gonna make a pass of about 5:25. And we're just flying through the rocks. And we have to secure the P2. And running low on gas. Missing all the corners with our sloppy tires. I mean, here we can clearly take the advantage of higher gear ratio, lower gear ratios and higher top speed, but unfortunately we're coming in at P2 for this one. No. I might have to increase the downforce at the back for the next race. Alright, that was 10 laps.